I'm just going to speak very briefly from my perspective as founder and director of Beyond Conflict. We are a mental health charity for victims of war and those frontline workers who serve to help them. And Sheikh is one of our founding ambassadors alongside Sir Terry Waite. So we really support what you're doing with Stop Human Trafficking, and also I want to applaud the publication of this fantastic booklet because it sets out in a very simple, clear and punchy way what the scale of the problem is globally. It breaks it down into countries, regions. It tells us how to spot the red flags, and it tells us helplines and numbers where we can reach out and get something done about it. It's really a first stop for anybody to learn about what this problem is in today's world. The world today is in crisis, whether that is war, poverty, or natural disasters linked to global warming. And these crises are global in impact. They've broken up families, communities and countries, and in some parts of the world, like the Middle East, the whole region is in flames. But where we see crisis and human suffering, these traffickers and modern slave traders see opportunity. The International Labour Organization said in 2024 that profits from modern slavery and human trafficking rose to £185 billion. It's a global and growing industry that sells vulnerable children and adults for profit. This evil trade is evident around the world in countries both rich and poor. It's supporting industries ranging from the sex industry to farming to construction to fishing to domestic work. But actually there's a whole list of industries if you look at this fantastic booklet. Human traffickers prey on vulnerability, on those desperate souls who are fleeing poverty, war, torture. They're those without family or home. It's, as Keith said, one of the world's oldest industries in history, and yet even today, in a modern society, it is operating with impunity in plain sight. Today it's boosted and aided by social media. There are very little efforts to punish those who carry it out, as Sheikh said. Even some of the biggest and most trusted companies in the world are not immune to becoming entangled in its web. Recently, in the British news, it was reported that several employees at a branch of McDonald's were victims of the human slave trade. Slave traders have also forced people to work at factories that made products for Waitrose, Marks and Spencer's, Tesco, Asda. And I think to myself, how on earth is this possible? These huge names, how do they get embroiled in this? What safeguarding is there to protect who they employ? In my work, first as a journalist who's covered wars, and then as the founder and director of Beyond Conflict, I've seen examples, many examples of how human traffickers exploit the vulnerable. Back in 2016, before I set up Beyond Conflict, but it was one of the things that helped inspire me to do so, I learned about babies and children being sex trafficked by Islamic State. The youngest victim was a baby, just a few months old. The younger the victim, the higher the price tag when they were being trafficked. In Gaza today, tens of thousands of children are orphaned, and almost 1 million are homeless. 1 million kids in Gaza need mental health support desperately as a result of what's happened over the last year. The US State Department, as well as local NGOs, report that this has exposed children to human trafficking. And it also noted a rise in the number of trafficking cases since last October. In the Rohingya refugee camp in Bangladesh, which houses more than 500,000 children who fled the Myanmar genocide in 2017, there is evidence of human trafficking taking place, taking advantage of young people. In Ukraine, millions of children have been displaced by the war following Russia's invasion. In July this year, the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child and a consultation group on the children of Ukraine said Crisis and emergency situations, including armed conflicts, put children at greater risk of being separated from parents and their protected environment. These children are easy prey for the child traffickers, illegal adopters, exploitation, including sexual exploitation. All our senses must be on alert to prevent these risks and protect the children who are victims, offering them psychological, legal and social support. So that was from that group. But these words, they don't just apply to Ukrainian children, they apply to children and victims of wars everywhere. Beyond Conflict's job is to support mental health provision for victims of war, Stop Trafficking, and its booklet, it aims to give us the knowledge and the tools to spot red flags that human trafficking and slavery is taking place right in our midst, under our noses. It's a book that's full of really incredibly valuable information. Hopefully, working together, we can play some small part in exposing and hindering this evil trade, and we can learn about ways in which to stop it. So thank you, Shape. Thank you to everyone who's organised tonight's event.
Thank you.